Hello sinners, welcome back. I'm your host, Rebecca Midnight, and today is a very special day. LA Rush turns 20, a fact that's relevant to me and like 5 other people. If you don't know what LA Rush is, the game was released October 10th, 2005 for the PlayStation 2 and original Xbox, with a horrible PC version and a PlayStation Portable version coming a year later. The game is an entry in the Rush arcade series, though you will be hard-pressed to find any similarities between the likes of San Francisco Rush or Rush 2049 and LA Rush, and for my money, I would just leave any comparisons at the door. LA Rush is its own thing and has far more in common with the likes of Need for Speed Underground 2 or Midnight Club than with the greater Rush series. The game was developed by Pitbull Syndicate, later known as Midway Newcastle, and was published by Midway Games. And if Pitbull Syndicate sounds familiar to you, that is because they developed the Bad Test Drive games. But rest assured that these games have no bearing on LA Rush, and LA Rush is a lot better of a game than those are. The game seems to have had a fairly troubled development. There's not a lot of information out there, but I did watch an interview from the head of Midway with IGN back when the game was fairly close to being released, and I just get this strong feeling that they didn't really know what it is they were even developing, which honestly makes it more impressive to me that the game feels as cohesive as it does, considering that they said they had Xbox Live multiplayer working for it, but that didn't ship with the game, so who knows what ended up happening there. For now, let's talk about the story. The story follows Trix, a renowned street racer with the money, the fame, and the worst hairstylist in LA. Him, his friend Ty, and the guys from West Coast Customs are hanging out in the garage, and the West Coast Customs crew is heckling Trix about his 240SX, and Ty explains to them that this is the car that won him his first $10,000 and got him on his way to street racing stardom. About this time, Lydell Ray shows up, a wealthy businessman who seems to have bought his way into the street racing scene rather than earned it. After him and Trix get in an argument and some ugly words are exchanged, Lydell drops this banger of a line.
Change is coming.
And the cutscene ends. 2 weeks later, Trix comes back from his vacation to find that his house has been ransacked, all of his cars have been repossessed by Lydell, except for that little 240. So there you are, with a dream of once again reclaiming your garage, your money, your success, and taking down Lydell in the process. You will do this through various missions, completing races, retribution missions, and the like. The story itself I found to be quite fun. It is laden with 2000s cringe, but I really liked the West Coast Customs TV show and stuff like Pimp My Ride, so I thought it was pretty fun. And most racing games don't even bother with a story, so it's nice to see one here with cutscenes and all. Though, if you don't really care about the story, it won't be a big deal. It's fairly lax, there's not a whole lot to it, and about halfway through, the game pretty much gives up on it anyway. Lydell sends some muscle from out of town to come and race you, I guess, or to try to take you down, and they're very angry guys. They don't look at the camera and they push people out of the way because they mean business. After that, there really is no cutscenes till the end of the game as far as I remember, so if it's not your thing, it won't be that intrusive. Before we cover what I like about this game, I think we need to cover the negatives first. I do really like this game, despite what I'm about to say about it. Though, I have a lot of nostalgia for this game, whereas most of you probably don't. And I can see where these things would turn a lot of people off to it or give them a negative perception of the game. But I genuinely believe that under these flaws, there really is a unique and fun game. First of all, the traffic is beyond excessive. While accurate to Los Angeles traffic, I'm sure, and certainly an impressive feat for the 6th generation of consoles, It ultimately ends up being frustrating, as navigating through it at times is simply impossible due to every lane being blocked. This issue is even more of a problem in the races. There are scripted segments in most of the races in the game where a semi-truck or an oil tanker pulls into the intersection to block your path, a car cuts in front of you, or a police barricade blocks the entire street. While these are intended to make the races more exciting, the way they're executed is quite frustrating, usually leading you to slamming into them and totaling your car and having to sit through the crash cam, or at the very least slamming into them and coming to a dead stop. Worse yet, on the last lap of basically every race, the finish line has obstacles that are intentionally blocking the entire road with a ramp off to one side or the other that you would have to jump to finish in first place. Trouble is, the cars don't really respond well when they bottom out, so when you hit the ramp, more often than not, you're shooting off one side or the other and slamming into a wall or traffic. If these mistakes happen early on, it's pretty easy to regain your position since the AI can be quite dumb, but for some reason they decided this was a good idea to put at the end of the races, costing you the race, your money, your time, everything. And come to think of it, this is a complaint that's fairly regularly leveled against LA Rush by other people. This game at points does not respect your time. Races cost money, there is no restart feature in races, so if you lose your money too, leading you to have to grind for more cash to go replay the race again and continue the story. If it was executed properly, I think the idea of races being pretty high stakes with the punishment for losing being having to grind some to try again is fairly cool. The fact that more often than not you will lose due to the game's mechanics undermining you rather than something you did makes the whole thing implode on itself. The next mission type are acquire missions. These are the predominant way you earn cars back in this game. The other being stunt tokens, and both of these are incredibly frustrating in nature. The acquire mission sets you up with a goal of getting the car back to your house with the least amount of damage possible, but unfortunately the game sets these up in such a way where there's basically nothing you can do to avoid damage to your car. You can't dodge the enemy cars because they will just box you in and stay there. They weigh far more than normal traffic, so you can't knock them out of the way, and due to the extra weight they can deal crippling damage to your car very easily. Even if you juke them, they will immediately get beside you again because they rubber band like crazy. And the icing on the cake is that you have to pay for damage that was unavoidable, sometimes wiping out your entire savings and causing you to have to replay races to get money again to progress. The stunt tokens are basically a timed event tasking you to collect tokens on a set path, taking you down streets, alleys, and ramps. The frustrating part about these is that the hitbox for the tokens is very unforgiving and not really designed in harmony with the car's handling. Cars are very twitchy and oversteer prone, so lining up precisely to grab these tokens is really hard. And if you miss one, you will likely not have time to back up and grab them. And for most of these, the final token is at the end of a jump, which, as I stated when I was talking about the races, cars don't take jumps very well in this game. I blew so many runs at the very end because the car snapped to one side or the other when hitting a ramp. Now that I'm done shitting on this game in pretty much every way there is to do, I can finally tell you guys what it is about this game that I find so good. First of all, the car list is awesome and features many unique cars from the likes of GM, Nissan, Dodge, Mitsubishi, and many others, as well as featuring several pages of Midway concept cars, some of which have really cool designs and are quite fast. The damage model for these cars is really impressive too. It's one of the only racing games in memory that has both licensed cars and a fairly realistic damage model. It honestly reminds me a lot of early soft body physics games like Flat Out and Rig of Rods. Another thing that a lot of people didn't like, but I really do, is the car customization itself. Within the design that the devs were going for, I find it to be a really unique spin on racing games. A lot of people expected this game to have a customization system like Need for Speed or Midnight Club where you get to pick the parts and everything, but that's not what the devs were going for here. The game is heavily influenced by West Coast Customs and Pimp My Ride, and it executes that flawlessly in my opinion. That's the whole point of the shows, is that these people give their cars to West Coast Customs and they go crazy on it, and the assumption on our end is that the people who own the cars don't know what they're getting until it's done and they get surprised with it. And I think that's a really unique way to go about upgrading your cars in this game. There's really nothing else like it, and while it's not Midnight Club or Need for Speed in that regard, It's not trying to be, and I don't think it should be. If that's what you're looking for, there are other games that can provide that. But I found it really exciting personally to take my car in and to see what they were going to do to it. Sometimes you get some crazy stuff like a zebra wrap Celine S7, but most of the time the customizations are actually kind of cool and they tell you the rundown of what they did to your car both under the hood and externally, and it's really well done in my opinion. Another thing that I absolutely adore about this game is the map itself. The rendition of LA on offer here has a ton of detail and is huge. While I wish there was more stuff to do within the map, there are the stunt tokens which should keep you occupied, plus there's a lot of really interesting nooks and crannies to explore, and a few landmarks sprinkled in there for good measure, like the Queen Mary at the pier, there's a stadium downtown, there's even weird little areas like a track and field area behind a school that you can go do donuts in the field and run the track and field with your car like it's a racetrack. Stuff like that is what kept me busy for hours when I was younger, and even today the only game that I can think of that's topped this version of LA is Midnight Club LA, and that came like 5 years later. Considering the hardware that this game was built on, the map itself is one of the best of the generation in my opinion. For the last stop on our journey with this game, I want to talk about the situation regarding emulators and LA Rush. LA Rush's situation as far as playing it on anything but official hardware is pretty dire. It seems pretty difficult to get running properly on anything other than an actual PS2 or Xbox. PCSX2 has issues running the game in hardware mode where if you do any stunt tokens, the game bugs out and the frame rate drops into the single digits. The only way to circumvent this is to play the game in software mode, which somehow for this footage I was able to get running okay, but then you lose out on being able to run the game in higher resolutions and in proper widescreen, as well as generally the game has performance issues in software mode on weaker machines. Zemu, the original Xbox emulator, is, well, yeah, don't even bother. Another option would be the PlayStation 2 Classics emulator on a modded PS3, but that also has issues. Namely, in every cutscene, the game has audio but no video, just a black screen, as well as it has performance issues that at times are worse than on original hardware. This issue seems fairly trivial at a glance, and I would reckon it could be fixed if someone wanted to create a custom emulator configuration for the PS3. I just wanted to spotlight these issues because I'd really love to see someone with the know-how look into them and maybe get this game running good on emulators, as this game will not stand the test of time otherwise. Midway is gone, Pitbull Syndicate is gone, it didn't sell very well when it was new, and generally it's not regarded as a beloved game, so it will never get a remaster, a port, or even a remake. So the only hope we have of keeping this game relevant in decades to come would be to get it running well on emulators and making it accessible as possible on newer hardware. And now for the conclusion. Underneath all the lack of polish, this game is remarkably cohesive. There is a good game under the surface here if you're willing to put up with some of its shortcomings. I think you'll be really surprised at how fun and good this game can be when its mechanics are firing on all cylinders and you nail that difficult jump or are cutting up traffic. It's exhilarating. So, for its 20th birthday, I would say give this game a shot. If you have a PlayStation 2 or an original Xbox kicking around, despite poor sales, the game can be found dirt cheap. Otherwise, if you have a decent PC, you can always emulate it in software mode, and with a little tinkering, you can get it running pretty well. So, that's it then. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's been a pleasure for me to get to revisit this game, despite some of the frustration I encountered in the process. I love you guys to death, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until next time, this is Becca Midnight, signing off. Bye for now.